You wake up, your ankles are puffy, your fingers feel tight. Takes a full minute before your joints decide to cooperate, and you haven't even gotten out of bed yet. You look in the mirror and your face looks heavier than it should, which makes no sense because the scale says the same thing it said last week. So you tell yourself, that's 50. That's just how it is now. What if all of it? The swelling, the stiffness, the skin that looks tired no matter what you put on it, the fatigue that 3 cups of coffee barely dents. What if it's not 5 separate problems? What if it's one? One system running through your entire body that has no pump, no backup, and that your doctor has almost certainly never checked. A few weeks ago, I noticed in comments, several of you independently, different videos described the same cluster: swollen legs, stiff mornings, brain fog, skin changes. And every one of you had been told something different. One was told it was her heart. Another was told it was hormones. Another was told to drink more water. So I went into the research, and the thread that connects all of it is a system that medicine has been ignoring for decades. Menopause makes it dramatically worse. Let me give you the picture first. Your body pushes about 20 litres of blood through your capillaries every day. Most of it, around 17 litres, gets pulled back into the blood vessels right away. But 3 litres don't make it back. They leak out into the spaces between your cells. And if nothing picks up that fluid, it pools there. Tissues swell, waste accumulates, inflammation kicks in. The system responsible for collecting those 3 litres is your lymphatic system. It's this sprawling network, vessels, nodes, organs running from your feet all the way up to your skull, carries your immune cells around, absorbs fat from your gut, drains the fluid that would otherwise just waterlog everything. But here's what makes it different from everything else in your body. There's no heart driving it, no central pump. Lymph only moves because of 3 things: your muscles contracting, your diaphragm moving when you take a deep breath, and gravity. That's the whole list. And if you think about what happens after 50, less muscle mass, shallower breathing, more time sitting, all 3 of those slow down at once. A 2018 paper in Arteriosclerosis, Thrombosis and Vascular Biology, that's an American Heart Association journal, confirmed something researchers had suspected for a while. Your lymphatic vessels have estrogen receptors on them. ERA, estrogen receptor alpha, and they're not just sitting there. The study found that your lymphatic vasculature actually needs that ER alpha signaling to hold its shape and keep contracting properly. So before menopause, estrogen was doing this background job on your lymph vessels, keeping them toned, responsive, able to push fluid through, same way it was protecting your arteries, your bones. When estrogen drops, those vessels lose contractile force. They get sluggish. And a 2026 review in Frontiers in Cardiovascular Medicine put numbers on it. Women show a steeper age-related decline in lymphatic pumping than men. And the researchers tied it directly to the hormonal transition. But it's actually a 2-part problem, which is what makes it so frustrating. 1, your lymph vessels pump weaker. 2, the hormonal shift also messes with sodium and water balance, so more fluid leaks out of your capillaries into your tissues in the first place. You've got more fluid flooding the system and less capacity to drain it. That's the equation most women after 50 are living with. Nobody explains it to them. The first place you notice it is your ankles. End of the day, shoes tight, feet swollen. And you assume heart, kidneys, or you've just been on your feet too long. There's a test almost nobody knows about. Takes 15 seconds. You pinch the skin at the base of your second toe. If it feels thickened, if you can't really lift it into a normal fold, that's a positive stemmer sign. 92% sensitive for lymphedema. That's better than a lot of the screening tools we take for granted in medicine. Cardiac edema pits when you press it. Your finger leaves a dent. Renal edema puffs up around the eyes in the morning. Lymphatic swelling starts at the extremities and the skin thickens. 3 different mechanisms, 3 different presentations, and most annual checkups don't distinguish between them. I should be honest about something here though, because it matters for the full picture. We have solid data on lymphedema in breast cancer survivors. A 2022 study in JAMA Oncology tracked survivors and found prevalence climbed from about 7% at diagnosis to nearly 24% 7 years later, with age over 50 as a significant risk factor. That data exists because oncologists actually look at the lymphatic system. Outside of cancer, the data on low-grade lymphatic slowdown in postmenopausal women is thin, really thin. We're just not measuring it. Dr. June Wu said it plainly in 2025, there are still no FDA-approved therapies for lymphedema. The system is medically orphaned, the swelling you can see. What comes next, you can only feel, and most women blame it on something completely different. Stiff hands every morning, knees that argue with the stairs. 10-15 minutes before your body loosens up, you assume arthritis, might be. But a presentation at the ACR Convergence in 2025, that's the American College of Rheumatology meeting, centered the lymphatic system in how the body clears inflammation from joints. There's a synovial lymphatic network that drains fluid and inflammatory debris out of the joint capsule. At night, when you're not moving, that drainage basically stalls. Fluid pools, inflammatory waste sits there, and then menopause piles on. Your baseline inflammation is already higher. IL-1, Illinois-6, TNF-alpha all go up after the hormonal shift. This whole process called inflammaging. So you've got sluggish overnight drainage, plus a body cranking out more inflammatory waste than it used to. That's why the stiffness hits so hard in the morning and gets better once you're moving. You're literally kick-starting the pump again. And that same stagnation, it's doing something to your skin that no cream is going to fix. When your skin gets duller, drier, more textured, the default explanation is collagen. And sure, collagen declines, that's real. But what actually clears waste from the dermal layer is your lymphatic system. When it stagnates, metabolic junk accumulates between your skin cells. You end up with skin that looks exhausted no matter what serums you throw at it because the congestion is underneath. Cellulite works through the same mechanism, by the way. 80 to 90% of women deal with it. The fibrous bands in your subcutaneous fat pull the skin inward. Fat cells push outward, and lymphatic stagnation dumps extra fluid into that space, which makes the whole texture worse. Not a weight problem, a plumbing problem, if we're being blunt about it. I know dry brushing comes up every time anyone mentions lymph. I want to level with you. When researchers actually ran controlled studies on it, they found only tiny temporary bumps in skin temperature and pulse, nothing that hit statistical significance. CRP didn't budge. It exfoliates well, and it feels nice. As a lymphatic tool specifically, the science isn't behind it yet. Doesn't mean throw your brush away, means let's be honest about what it's doing. What does have a mechanical basis, muscle contraction and deep breathing. Your thoracic duct, the biggest lymphatic vessel you've got, handles about 75% of your total lymph drainage. I'll come back to that in a minute. Your lymphatic system is how your immune cells get around. Lymphocytes, the white blood cells that chase down infections, clean up damaged tissue, they travel through lymph fluid. When that fluid slows down, your immune cells are basically stuck in traffic. A 2023 Nature review on immunosenescence laid it out. Fewer CD4 T cells, fewer B cells, natural killer cell activity dropping off. And after menopause, because there is always a menopause component. A review that analysed something like 688 studies confirmed that the estrogen drop accelerates this immune decline past what age alone does. Your inflammatory markers go up, your adaptive immune response goes down, and it feeds on itself. Slow lymph, waste build-up congests the immune pathways. Congested immunity means you're catching more things, recovering slower, running this low-grade fatigue that isn't really about sleep. It's systemic, and the fatigue makes you move less. Less movement, slower lymph, round and round. Everything I've described so far is happening below the neck. What I haven't told you yet is what's happening above it, because your brain turns out to have its own drainage system. And when it starts failing in women, the timing is hard to ignore. In 2012, a neuroscientist named Maiken Nedergaard at the University of Rochester found that the brain has its own waste clearance network. channels running alongside blood vessels that flush cerebrospinal fluid through brain tissue and carry out metabolic garbage. She called it the lymphatic system, G for the glial cells that form the channels, lymphatic for what it does. The part that stuck with me when I first read this, it doesn't run all the time. It switches on primarily during deep sleep, stage N3, slow wave sleep, and during that phase, the space between your brain cells expands by roughly 60%. That's a lot. Cerebrospinal fluid floods through, washes out the waste that built up during the day, including amyloid beta, the proteins linked to Alzheimer's when they accumulate over years. In 2025, Cambridge published a study using UK Biobank data, 40,000 people, and found that impaired cerebrospinal fluid movement predicted dementia risk over the next decade. That's not speculative, that's prospective population data. Now here's where it got personal for me. A large fMRI study, 719 healthy adults, tracked lymphatic function across age and split the data by sex. Both men and women held steady through their 30s and 40s. Around 55, it started to drop. But in women, the drop was steeper, sharper. And the researchers flagged menopause as a likely contributor. Think about what that means practically. After menopause, women sleep worse. That's well documented. Night sweats, insomnia, more awakenings, less time in those deep N3 stages. And the lymphatic system only works during deep sleep. So you've got less time in the cleaning window and a weaker cleaning system, both showing up at once. There's also data from Stony Brook, a 2015 study showing that side sleeping appears to be the most efficient position for lymphatic transport, something like 25% better clearance than sleeping on your back. That was in animal models, so grain of salt, but it's consistent with the broader picture. I want to be fair though. A 2025 paper in Nature Neuroscience has questioned parts of this, arguing that diffusion might matter more than convective flow for moving waste through brain tissue. The field is still arguing about the mechanics, but the core idea that deep sleep is when your brain takes out the trash and that this degrades with age, that part has held up. Given all of that, what actually helps? I'm not giving you a list of 20 things. A few things have real mechanical evidence, and I'd rather you do 3 of them consistently than hear about 15 and do none. Movement. Your calves are basically a second pump for your lower lymphatic system. Every time they contract, they squeeze the lymph vessels and push fluid upward. You don't need an hour at the gym. 2 minutes of walking every 30 or 45 minutes restarts the drainage if you've been sitting. A 2023 meta-analysis in +1 16 randomized trials, close to 600 postmenopausal women, found that aquatic exercise in particular improved lower body strength, agility, and quality of life. The water pressure acts like a compression garment while you move. I found that detail kind of elegant actually, the pool doing double duty. Breathing, that thoracic duct I mentioned, it drains 75% of your lymph, runs through your chest, and it responds directly to how you breathe. Shallow breathing barely activates it. 5 minutes of slow, deep diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing, and you get a measurable increase in lymph flow through that duct. Hydration. Lymph is fluid. Dehydrate it and it thickens and slows. And here's the weird part. Being dehydrated actually makes you retain more water in your tissues, not less. About 2 litres a day from all sources is what the European Food Safety Authority recommends for women. Easy to let slip after 50, when your thirst signals aren't as sharp. And for your brain, prioritise deep sleep and try sleeping on your side if you can. Based on the Stony Brook data, lateral sleeping may be the most efficient position for lymphatic clearance. Here's what I want from you because it tells me something the research can't. Tomorrow morning before you get out of bed, just notice how long it takes before your joints feel normal. Not your alarm, not your coffee, the stiffness. Time it, even roughly, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, 20. Drop that number in the comments. I'm trying to figure out how many women in this community are dealing with this lymphatic slowdown and chalking it up to something else. That pattern shapes what I look into next. Your lymph system doesn't work in isolation. It's tangled with your insulin. That connection is the video on screen now. Everything I've shared today is for educational purposes only. Please talk to your doctor before making changes to your health routine, especially if you're managing existing conditions or taking medications. These decisions are yours to make with a clinician who knows your history.